The snow fell in heavy sheets, wind howled through the ancient trees. It was Christmas Eve, but the festive cheer couldn't reach the depths of Willow Creek Woods. A lone figure, bundled in a thick coat, trudged toward the looming silhouette of Willow Creek Manor. Daniel shivered, pulling his coat tighter. He had inherited the manor from his great-aunt, a woman he barely knew. The lawyer's words echoed in his mind. A grand old house, with a bit of a reputation. He was about to find out just how accurate that statement was. As he approached the house, the wind seemed to whisper warnings. Daniel paused, his hand hovering over the tarnished doorknob. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open. The air inside was cold and stale, thick with the scent of decay. Cobwebs hung like macabre decorations, and dust lay heavy on every surface. A grandfather clock stood silent, its hands frozen in time. The house creaked around him, a symphony of groans and whispers. A sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut with a resounding boom, sending a flock of crows scattering from the nearby trees. Daniel jumped, his heart pounding. He took a hesitant step inside, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Each room he passed seemed to grow colder, the shadows deeper. He felt a presence here, unseen eyes watching his every move. Later, huddled by a crackling fire he had managed to light, Daniel found a dusty old journal. It belonged to Eleanor Blackwood, the last resident of Willow Creek Manor. Her words, penned in a spidery script, painted a chilling picture of the manor's past. Eleanor wrote of her family, their laughter echoing through the halls, their joy a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere that now clung to the house. Then came the tragedy, a fire, a frantic escape, and the loss of her parents. She was left alone, haunted by more than just memories. As he read, Daniel felt a knot of unease forming in his stomach. Eleanor's words were filled with a growing terror, a sense of an unseen presence closing in. He closed the journal, a shiver running down his spine. That night, Daniel lay awake, listening to the house settling around him. The wind howled outside, mimicking the cries he had begun to hear within the walls. There were footsteps in the hallway, the soft padding of bare feet. He saw fleeting shadows, glimpses of movement in the periphery of his vision. One night he woke with a start to the sound of a child giggling. His heart pounded in his chest as he strained to hear, but the sound was gone. He was sure it wasn't a dream. The house was alive, and it was trying to tell him something. Sleep offered no escape. His dreams were plagued by visions of the fire, of Eleanor's anguished cries. He would wake in a cold sweat, the line between dreams and reality blurring. Section 5. The Ghostly Presence. Days turned into weeks, and the strange occurrences continued. Objects moved on their own, whispers followed him from room to room. One evening, he could have sworn he saw a young girl standing at the top of the stairs, her sorrowful eyes boring into him. He tried to rationalize it. He told himself it was the wind, the settling of the old house, his imagination playing tricks on him. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He wasn't alone in Willow Creek Manor. He was sharing his home with something else. Section 6. The Unveiling. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, Daniel delved deeper into the history of the house. He scoured local libraries, poring through old newspapers and historical records. He discovered that the fire that claimed Eleanor's parents was no accident. It was arson. The prime suspect, Eleanor herself. She was a troubled child, prone to fits of rage and violence. The townsfolk whispered that she was possessed, a danger to herself and others. After the fire, she was sent to an asylum where she lived until her death. The truth, it seemed, was far more sinister than Daniel could have imagined. Section 7. The Dark Secret. Armed with this knowledge, Daniel returned to Willow Creek Manor. He stood in the charred remains of what was once the nursery, a chill running down his spine. Here, in this very room, the tragedy had unfolded. He could almost hear the screams, smell the smoke, He found another journal, this one hidden beneath the floorboards. It was filled with Eleanor's ramblings, her words a chilling mix of anger, despair and something else, something darker, more sinister. She wrote of a presence in the house, a darkness that whispered to her, that fed her rage. Eleanor hadn't set the fire. She had been influenced, manipulated by something evil that lurked within the walls of Willow Creek Manor. Section 8. Trapped. The air grew heavy, the shadows seeming to press in on him. He felt a cold hand on his shoulder and a voice whispered in his ear, a voice filled with unimaginable sadness and rage. "Help me," it pleaded. "Free me from this prison." He spun around, but there was no one there. He was trapped, caught in a web of darkness, spun by a force beyond his understanding. The house wanted him to stay, to become another victim in its long and bloody history. Panic welled up inside him. He had to get out, to escape the clutches of this cursed place. Section 9. Escape. He stumbled back, his foot catching on a loose floorboard. As he fell, his hand brushed against something cold and metallic. It was a small, ornate key hidden beneath the floorboard. With trembling hands, he picked it up. He didn't know what it unlocked, but it was a chance, a beacon of hope in the suffocating darkness. He had to try, he had to escape. The house seemed to groan in protest as he fled, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He ran through the endless corridors, the key clutched tightly in his hand, until at last he burst through the front door and into the night. He never looked back.